This is the second year that Zoom has been our title sponsor. I greatly appreciate that partnership. It's amazing to see the evolution of Zoom from the pandemic into what now is that CX platform in so much more as it relates to phone and meetings and collaboration. They're doing a fantastic job. So that was completely ad hoc. I had no idea that his brother was going to be here. So I'm going to welcome up our panelists. Come on up, guys. As they're bringing, I think we're getting the podium out of here. Thank you very much. Quick intro. My name is Enger. I'm the CTO here at ATC, recently named president.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I thought it was going to be a standing ovation, but apparently. Thank you very much. I know a lot of you in the room. I've been doing this a very long time. I'm going on 18 years now with the company ATC. My role as CTO is two prongs. One is internally. I'm responsible for our entire technology stack. So I'm living and breathing exactly what you guys are breathing. I am a big proponent on learning on the bleeding edge and implementing on the leading edge. That's what today is all about. We're learning together. We're going to learn from each other. The second prong of my job is externally. I have a team of consultants. I don't know if they're in the room or not. It is really bright up here. I can't see anybody. We're consulting across the country. At any given time, we have 100 projects, 140, 50 projects going on. What that means to you is that we're bringing the best practices in the industry to you for your engagement. We know what vendors are going to meet your business requirements. We know what vendors are going to meet and exceed expectations. We know what to do, and we know what not to do. So that's very important. Our announcement earlier, I take it very seriously. I'm incredibly excited about it. The AI and data, everybody's hearing about it. Everybody's talking about it. We're not taking it lightly. Us announcing that we have a 5th core consulting practice in data and AI means that we have spent the last 14 months researching, analyzing, finding partners in this space that are the best in the industry, some of which are here in the room today and some of which that are on the stage here. We are ready to take on your AI readiness assessments. We're ready to take on your AI buy versus build. We're ready to take on your AI cybersecurity project. Like, we are full tilt into this and we're not taking it lightly. So with me being here 18 years, I've seen a number of paradigm shifts throughout these technology transformations, I'll call them, where it's, back in the day, it was voice, right? Like, we went from analog to PRI to SIP trunking. You remember all those? With the phone systems, they were analog and then digital and then they were cloud-based. Cybersecurity, I mean, what we were doing in cybersecurity 3 years ago isn't what we're doing today. It's completely different. We're taking different technologies, different ways of going about it, but it takes a paradigm shift. It takes a transformation. And that is what AI is going to be bringing to us as our organizations evolve, is this paradigm shift. But this paradigm shift is happening in real time and at the speed of light. All of these transformations have incredible upsides, right? I remember when we were going through, a couple of you in this room, we were talking about cloud-based communications, and it was like, we're going to take that PBX, and we're going to put it in the cloud. Whoa, mind blown. Dynamic circuits, I remember that. That was like, okay, you're going to have a circuit. You can use some of it for voice and some of it for bandwidth. Mind blown. That is what AI is bringing to us. And everybody's trying to keep up, and it's happening very, very quickly. The scary part about it is our organizations have to keep up with it, or they will no longer exist. The next 4 to 5 years, I see a massive migration to our businesses being run with the data in the AI. And if we're not on the bus, we're off the bus. That's the scary part. The positive part is you have a great partner in ATC to help you navigate these waters. And we have a great panel behind me and a number of vendors in the audience that are helping us navigate these waters. So without further ado, I'd like to move on into the panel discussions. So if you could, give a quick intro down the line, just a quick roll call.
Sure. Chad Timms. I'm with Fortified Data. I'm the Chief Operating Officer. Our company's focus in this marketplace is around the consulting and managed services of data, right? So we're at the base of all of this, right? Our focus is really on the data migration, data modernization, data architecture, anything that is focused around elevating your data resources in order to leverage these tools, right? Automation, AI, the next generation tool that we're going to have FOMO of, and we need to figure out how do we get our data capable and scalable to service those needs and drive help the business drive for their needs.
Yeah, and you are local.
I am local here in Cincinnati, yes.
Fantastic. Jeff.
Hey everybody, my name is Jeff DeVerter. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist over at RackSpace Technology. Now, you scratch your head and you say, why is the server rack people here talking about AI? Well, I figure we'll just address that right now. We have taken our 25 years of experience in helping companies transform utilizing the latest and greatest in capabilities and technology to drive their businesses forward. Started in managed hosting, from managed hosting to help invent and then help companies transform into utilizing the public cloud. Data transformation, security all along the way. And last year we created a new division in the company called FAIR, the Foundry for AI at RackSpace. And with that organization, standing on the power of our data scientists, our cloud engineers, architects, everybody is in helping companies create solutions, connecting together their disparate data systems, bringing those data systems together, adding the right security to help drive specific outcomes. We've done it for ourselves. We made ourselves the first customer, and then for over 35 different customers to date, and a whole lot more in the hopper. So I've been at RackSpace since 2008, seen an amazing amount of change. And as part of the Office of the CTO, I get to come out and have conversations like this. So delighted to be here.
Fantastic. Michael.
Michael Hennigan. I'm a CX strategy leader for go-to-market enablement for Zoom partners like ATC. And I mean, Brandon basically just spent 45 minutes talking about what my job is.
Indeed.
But from the Zoom perspective, we've had AI basically at the base of our platform and permeate through the entirety of the solution. And we're using that now to power the entire business through communications.
Well, thank you for using my company name twice in your introduction. That helps me. My name is Tony Scribner. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for Ntirety. And if you're unfamiliar with Ntirety, we're a managed services provider specializing in managed infrastructure, managed data services, which is very appropriate to today's discussion, managed compliance, also very appropriate to today's discussion, and managed security, also very appropriate. So you kind of wonder why is a CISO up here talking instead of a data scientist or ML specialist. It's really because in the world of AI being the wild, wild west, someone has to be the wet blanket to kind of help control and protect.
We just wanted to round out the panel discussion.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, very good. So thank you guys going through the roll call here. So let's jump right in. We have limited time together, and we probably could talk all afternoon about this. So let's start with use cases. Obviously with Zoom, from the CX perspective, there's a ton of use cases. But what else can we do with AI within the CX space and otherwise? So I'll start with you, Michael.
Again, Brandon, articulated a lot of that. And one of the biggest things I think we see in the CX space is what happens behind the scenes, where we can do agent training based on machine learning, from previous events. Outside of, if we just take this outside of communications, because I think communications is the easiest place for us to see AI right now. Or if you look at, OpenAI blew the doors off of it, demystified it, brought it to us mere mortals. So now we can create all this magic ourselves. One of the most interesting spaces that I like to look at is actually legal. My wife's an attorney. I find it very fascinating where AI plays, especially when you come to compliance and things like that. The most obvious for AI is real-time transcription, real-time translation in courtrooms, things like that. What we also see in legal is something very unique that I've learned about is there's applications out there for attorneys to do research on judges so that when they write motions, they can say, hey, Judge Nick is most likely to grant a motion based on these things, so we're going to write our motion like that. And when you start looking at that and you see what's happening in non-technology-based industries, like not like Zoom or things like that, I find that's very interesting because it's all kind of behind the scenes. And I think it really shows that AI, to one of Brandon's points earlier, is not taking jobs away. When you have AI implemented properly, it's going to elevate versus replace. And it also, when you treat AI like an employee, especially when you're writing motions and things like that, the employee has to be interviewed, the employee has to be secured, the employee has to be developed. And AI needs to be treated like that.
Yeah, I've seen some studies and some quotes. I was talking about this yesterday with somebody that the lead time from a competency standpoint for a new hire into a company is going to be 50% less than it was without the augmented aspect of AI. So that's really powerful if I can bring somebody up to speed in 50% of the amount of time. Back in the day, it used to be you had to spend 10,000 hours before you became an expert. I guess it's 5,000 now. So what other use cases are you seeing, Jeff?
Well, yeah, I would like to even just draw it back to one of the slides that we saw earlier, and it was that slide around productivity or profitability. Which industries are can get more profitable because of the use of AI? And if we take the number off the page, because all of them were double-digit numbers, and think about all of the different industries that were shown there. The reality is that AI has a place and a purpose in every one of our businesses today. You think about some of these sessions you go to at the conferences over the years, and you think, I'm going to go to that one because it applies, or I'll go to this, not go to this one because it does. AI applies to everything. We can think about it in an industry, we can think about it by business, we can think about it by role. And you can take that as the fill in the blank and complete the sentence is better with appropriate, and I'm going to use the word Brandon used, and we're very focused on this at RackSpace, and that is responsible AI. And we're going to talk about that more as we go through. But this isn't just a willy-nilly tool. It is a very powerful tool and needs to be used appropriately. But there isn't. We think use cases, every industry, every role can be better through the use of responsible AI.
And just a quick double down. I don't know if anybody else saw, but Google lost $90 billion in market share, I think it was yesterday or something like that, because of irresponsible AI. So, security.
Well, yeah, so when you talk about responsible use cases and how we can use it internally, and there are plenty of excellent transformation stories to that end, but the issue is if you're not doing it at the corporate level, right, your employees are doing it, and they're getting external tooling, right, that now people like me are really having to figure out how do we deal with this, because we weren't, now I have concerns about where my data goes, what's being introduced into my networks. I mean, baseline security issues really arise if you don't have a plan and if you don't have policies to control external use. So
give me some more on that. I mean, we all know shadow IT is happening, right? Shadow IT is happening throughout our organizations. We know this new AI tool's out there.
Yeah.
Heck, I know my marketing team, as good as they are, they're leveraging it day in and day out. How are you keeping from that data loss to going out to the public world? This could be a whole session, but I'll keep it. I'll try to keep it short with two stories, two brief stories. So one, we actually battled this internally, right? So the introduction of third-party meeting bots really took off rapidly because people realized, hey, I can attach them to our Teams meeting. It'll do transcription, and then I can summarize action items, blah, blah, blah. Well, the problem is now I have an internal meeting being recorded, transcripted, and that data is going elsewhere. I don't know what IP is in there. I don't know what customer data was maybe discussed. There's a whole lot that I don't know, and so we quickly had to turn and shut that down and create a policy and then look for the correct tooling that we can apply governance on top of. That's a very easy use case. Let me go to the far other side. Has anyone read about the story? There's a multinational company with an office in Hong Kong that had a little financial issue on a video call with the CFO. Okay, so very quickly, an employee in Hong Kong for a multinational company got on a conference call, I don't know what platform, there's not a whole lot of detail on it, with their CFO and other people in the financial department, and were instructed to wire what totaled about $26 million in US funds out to multiple accounts across the world. Problem was,
Nothing on that conference was real.
It was all deep fake.
It was all deep faked. So the responsible use of AI, right? I mean, so now we have to change basically, and I've already had discussions with our CFO, we have to go through different processes now just to do simple things like, okay, that's okay to pay and let's go ahead and pay it, right? It's changing the game everywhere.
We just had a session yesterday with the circuit, if Tracy's still here. If you guys aren't involved with the circuit, it's a nonprofit organization. There she is back in the back. Hey, Tracy. If you're not involved with the circuit, you should be. It's a nonprofit, strictly into IT. But we had an AI session talking about just that. And it was like, are we gonna have to have passwords, like between spouses? Like, I don't know if my wife's calling me, asking me to do something at the bank, like I'm gonna have a password for everything. So it's getting to be where you have to have those fail-safes.
You actually should,
Yes.
yeah, you should.
We've had that conversation in our house.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the question is, how many companies already have policies and the right security measures in place now, but just by show of hands?
Of course. Not that we can see them.
But it's a little scary. It's probably not something you want to hear as a CISO, but it's coming so fast it's been a challenge to understand what the right policies and procedures are, even in a business, let alone
Yeah, that's
your home.
if you understand what's being leveraged, right? Like that's fine. It's going to come down to the individual, right? Like we're going to have to educate the individuals within our environments to protect the environment. Security comes down to the individual normally.
Right.
But there are products and tools out there now that we're seeing that allow for a little bit of sniffing to go on to say, hey, we're starting to see these AI tools within the environment. Create that policy for that AI tool, or make sure that you're stopping that AI tool from being used. So I'm seeing a lot of that, but I'm also seeing some of the tooling, and we could talk a lot longer about this from a data loss prevention. What if somebody's trying to leverage ChatGPT with our proprietary data? I have the ability to sniff that out. So it's becoming more and more relevant, and I just see it exploding more and more into the future.
You know, Nick, one of the questions that we get a lot, and I'm sure is on everyone's mind if you're not already deep into the space, is how do you get started? And you know, we lean, and what we did internally, and our recommendation is how to build a governance team, bring that team together, and it's got to be cross-functional. Every part of the organization needs to be represented. Create that governance policy, create employee training, and deliver it as quick as possible, so that there are the right expectations. Yeah. These tools good, these tools bad. Here's how you get help. Raise your hand if you have a question. You're not going to get penalized, but ask the question first.
It's interesting because you're talking about consumption, but the same exact rules apply for outbound, right? When we look at building bots and things like that, right, as you know, as part of my space, and responsible responses from the bots is very important. You know, we've seen dating sites, you know, those DNA sites. You know, people go to those things for very personal pieces. And to Brandon's point, you know, about getting bad medication, you know, if you get bad information there, or you know, if somebody's reporting on a bad date, you know, things like that, it's there has to be a level of empathy, you know, actually built into the bot. So coaching and having governance around that side of it too is also extremely important.
That's right, and there's a lot to be said for baby steps in the process. You know, maybe not starting with recommendation requirements on your chatbot. Maybe it's not where you start. You start on the things that won't land you in jail or somebody else
no
in
lawsuits.
a worse position. Yeah.
But from that use case perspective, everyone thinks macro level. How do I improve operations? How am I going to optimize something? How do I make things? The way I look at it from a COO's perspective is, well, first of all, do I even have do I have good data? Do I have quality data?
Exactly right.
Do I have trusted data? Do I have all my data sources where I need them? Are they the right data sources? Do I have a data strategy, an enterprise data strategy that aligns with my business objectives? So I always like to look at it at much more micro level than that macro level. I can make, like you said, you can make AI do whatever you want. Right. But if you don't have good data, if you don't have good models, if you don't have a good enterprise data strategy that's going to drive your business objectives, then you're kind of stuck. So you have to have data modernization, you have to have discovery, cleaning of that data, and a full understanding of your platforms, where all your data is. It is much more micro.
Do we all agree that that's step zero?
It has to be.
Governance first, yes. And then step 0. And I want to glue the two comments together here, just for, if you want, I like to make things very realistic. You use the phrase, and I've stolen it thoroughly, and that is to think about AI as an employee, as an individual. Now, you're saying we need to get the data together and use the fancy modernization and correlation, all sorts of those words. But what I want you to, the analogy we're creating here is, if you're going to hire an employee, do you hire somebody who is intelligent, smart, well thought out, and has their facts together, and the decisions that they make are grounded in reality for you and your organization? Or do you ask a schizophrenic that question? Because if you don't do the work that you're talking about, that's the answer you get.
Yep, that's a great analogy.
And I think even when we take it one step further, you're talking about governance as the first step. To not put like such a dark cloud over. I mean, everything we're saying is pretty like, doom and gloom. But when I look at the first step I look at is the art of the possible. What are you trying to solve for? Because again, if we take the employee example, right, I'm hiring for a role, and AI is no different, right? So there's so many things out there, there's so much you can do. Again, going back to your point about the macro level, take it down to a micro level, figure out what you're solving for. And then and all those other things follow.
And then the governance issue on top of that is it's not that difficult, right? So you just need to be considerate. In cybersecurity, we often think about our threat attack surface, right? And then so now we're just talking about that data. So if I have to glue together a bunch of data from different sources and create a data warehouse or a data lakehouse, where am I going to put that? Am I putting that somewhere where it's a trusted partner and I have an existing relationship and I know what their acceptable use policies are? Okay, well, I've come a long way versus putting it somewhere where I don't know what all their controls are, right? And then just being aware, we use AI internally in a RAG method, right, which is retrieval augmented. So we're grabbing a lot of our own data and manipulating that into a contextual piece, and we're sending that off along with the question to AI. So it's looking at my data. Oh, well, guess what? I just sent off my data. Where am I sending that to? How's it being protected? Is it being encrypted in transit? I mean, it's all the same issues. We're just applying it to a new frontier.
What would you say, like we talk a lot about cybersecurity. Cybersecurity touches all facets of our business, Tony. Like, what are you seeing from cybersecurity tooling out there that's leveraging the next generation of AI?
I think the number one issue that a security provider has is dealing with the immense amount of data that comes in just from the security side, right? So we're not talking about time series data. We're not talking about other kind of, just really what's related to systems logging or threat feeds or whatever's happening within that cyber world. And quite frankly, without the automations that exist now, thanks to machine learning and AI, it would be impossible to correlate all that data and find the relationships, right? It would be impossible to threat hunt and go find that needle in a haystack without the tooling. But the important thing is that we're not just siloed into specific areas. We have tooling that kind of looks over our entire enterprise, which could be, a hybrid scenario with third-party cloud and internal data centers, our end users, their systems, which are the number one target from a threat actor, right? So I need to take that all needs to be blended together, and we wouldn't be able to do that without AI. But AI doesn't replace the SOC personnel either, right?
Absolutely.
It still takes that human to really understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. It's the AI versus AI, right? Like the threat actors are leveraging AI.
Oh.
We're using AI to prevent it. How do we keep up? And how does that look in the next 3 to 5 years? It's going to be a very interesting time.
It's only going to get more difficult, right? I mean, so remember, threat actors, their preferred path is the easiest path possible. Generally, that's through us and you all, right? People are the easiest.
The weak link.
Yeah, we are the weak link, right? And so the fact that they're able to use the same tools we can use for good for bad, right? And craft better phishing emails. That's a very easy path. If I was a threat actor, I have a technology in my pocket here, right, that I can use, and now I can craft emails that don't sound so disjointed, and like when you look at it, you look, this is phishing.
Yeah,
it's obvious.
totally.
Now you can't tell the difference.
I like what you said there about how it's not replacing the SOC personnel.
Right.
Everybody gets so afraid that AI is just going to steal all these jobs, but it's a shift, right? So people are, they may not be doing the same job, but now maybe they're training the bot and helping it find those bad actors and things like that. And to that point, right, you need people to train these things to do things good, right? It's kind of like raising a kid, right?
Yep.
So I want to talk about some success stories. Like, you guys have been engaged with hundreds, if not thousands, of environments within AI. Do you have some success stories that you've seen and it's like either gone really, really well or really, really poorly?
Yeah, so when we get in and help companies head down this road, we do it through a defined process that we've created, and we love alliteration as well, so I'm going to share that with you. And it's a process we call ideate, incubate, and industrialize, and it's a great crawl, walk, run type of a scenario. Ideate, we're going to come in and we're going to have a conversation around where we think, and here's how I would like to lead with those, is to come into business leaders and say, what if I could give every employee in your organization an hour a week back, an hour a day back? Because that's a very realistic number. Think about the percentages of profit that you saw. This is a great way where that comes from. And then we'll also come in with a list of over 500 use cases of where AI could be a benefit across many different industries. And that's where the light bulbs start to come on, and a plan comes together around 2 or 3 core areas where it's going to make a significant impact. From there, that plan becomes an MVP. That MVP gets tested and adjusted, and that becomes then an AI solution that then goes out into market. And where we've seen this really be successful is, we made the joke earlier, you maybe not start with medication recommendations. Where we find it is, how do we make knowledge workers, the people who sit in front of a computer and do a job for your organization, more productive? Is that around the Microsoft suite? Is it around having access to the information that they need? An example where I've seen it very successful for us is we created a tool internally, we call it the Intelligent Copilot for the Enterprise, ICE. And that's where we've gone in a couple of different use cases, crawled through all the different product information. I mentioned earlier, this company's been around for 25 years. There's a lot of products here across managed hosting, public, cloud, transformation services, and professional services, and on and on. It makes it really hard for salespeople. Now they can come in and ask a question. What's the latest from RackSpace around the software-defined data center? Give me the 5 key points. Then write an email to Nick and tell him about how great it is. And it'll do those things and give the references to where it came from. It's a great example. There's a bunch of other companies we could reference around how we're helping companies in safety, in warehousing, and some in transportation, and a lot in healthcare. But I like to say, find an easy crawl, walk, run process, and apply that in a cautious way that helps people be more productive. And
that's exactly right. I mean, there's so many different use cases out there, but it has to go through that discovery evaluation on the front end.
Yeah.
Making sure that we have step 0 and step 1 accurate. Oftentimes, in my opinion, it's the governance piece, but the data is key.
Right.
And I think Brandon had that quote up there, that if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out, or at least you're going to know where your garbage is at, because it's going to give you terrible results. And I think you probably have a fair amount of experience within that data cleanup. Like, what's the best practices of, like, I want to get started. What do we initially have to do?
Yeah, it was said earlier, and Brandon, his point was made very well. If you apply artificial intelligence, you apply any new technology to inefficient or bad processes, it's all you're going to do is amplify it, right? You've just created another problem that you have to solve with something else. So I always go back to, what is your enterprise data strategy, right? These have to align with your business needs. They have to align with the strategy that the business is looking for. But it goes back to good data. And how well your data ecosystem is being managed and operated. Do you have all the right information? Biggest challenge, and when it comes to, you were talking about bad actors, there's about 50,000 trained AI experts in the world. It's growing every day, but I bet half of them are bad actors. It's not the people that we already have inside of our business. So you have to have the experts, you have to have the infrastructure, you have to have the data, the good data, and all of that requires that enterprise data strategy and starting at that basis. But that's really the
Nick, what
challenge.
I love about Chad's answer is nothing has changed from the data guy's answer for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
Because and this is what's great about AI, is it's forcing us all to go back and do the work that these guys have been saying we've needed to do for years. And in order to not get lied to by our chatbots, we've got to go do that work.
Well, and it's even worse now because it's not just an on-premise database that's sitting in a secured closet that you're confident no, you have 100 containers in 1,000 different places with unknown amount of applications and people accessing that information. Where do you start, and how do you leverage that? And again, just getting back to the use case, what makes sense for the business? What are you trying to do?
So, first of all, you should never have a database server sitting in a closet. So, I'll start with that.
That was 20
to work-
years ago. 20 years ago.
But to work beyond that, right? So we talked about garbage in, garbage out, and the quality of the data, which is absolutely essential. And I alluded a little bit to the fact that we use AI internally for our own internal operations as well, right? But AI helped us uncover that bad data, right? So when given the right context, it can find those anomalies. To the point for us, I mean, if you think about, I have 15 years with the company. The company is well over 20 years in its various forms, pre-acquisition, the mergers and all that. But the number of customers that we have in the thousands, number of billing items that we have in the hundreds of thousands, right? And the propensity for there to be a mistake between an asset that exists for a customer and what we're billing for that asset for that customer, right? To the tune where, on a first initial run through our data and having AI look through that, we uncovered is about 6% of our total monthly billing that was out of normal parameter, right? That now we know we can go back and fix. That is not insignificant at all,
that's
right?
Amazing. Well, I want to thank our panelists, Zoom, RackSpace, Fortified, and Ntirety. I greatly appreciate you guys. I want to